Hey everyone, Brooke here, and welcome back to episode 5 of Massey University Gym Wellington's interviews. We hope you've enjoyed the interviews that we've posted so far, and stay tuned because we've got a lot more content coming your way. Now today's special guest, he wears funky socks with blue shoes. He does 40 kg deadlifts, and he loves a calf raise. He's the backbone of Massey University Gym Wellington, and we're so lucky to have him as our manager. It is David. Hey, David.
Hey, Brooke. I think that pretty much just wraps up the podcast there, right? Silly socks, blue shoes, and calf raises. Thanks for tuning in today, guys.
And that's the interview. No, I'm just kidding. But how are you going, David?
To be honest, Brooke, I'm pretty nervous to be on this side of the interview panel. For anyone who's watched those live Massey University Gym home group training classes, you know that my mouth can get away from me sometimes, and I might talk about invisible friends in wheelchairs or all sorts of stuff, so I'm pretty nervous.
You'll be great. I can't wait to hear what comes out. But can you tell us, David, what's your favourite pair of socks?
Gosh, favourite pair of socks. When I'm hanging out with my son, I've got these Batman socks. I don't tend to wear those ones to work. I just keep those for, private life at home. So my Batman socks.
Nice. And one more question before I introduce the co-host. A question from Kelly Fisher. She wants to know why the socks?
Well, and you may or may not notice that I haven't got any hair on my head. So my only form of creativity, my only outlet really can be my socks. We wear a Massey University Gym shirt and shorts, which are black. So really socks is my only creative outlet.
Nice work. It really makes you stand out from the crowd, right?
I like what you did there, standing out with socks.
Awesome. All right. So my co-host today, if you want to know any information about golf or you want some tips, she's your go-to girl. It is Rihanna. Hey, Rihanna.
Hey, team.
And he is the creator of the Gains Matrix. If you want more information, you can go back and listen to his interview. It is Miska. Hey, Miska.
Hello, everyone.
Moustache looking great as ever.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, back to our special guest, David. So we're going to start off with some background questions, so just so that we and our members can get to know you a little bit better. So let's start off. Whereabouts in the Massey University community do you fit? What's your role?
So my job title is the Sport Recreation Coordinator for Massey University in Wellington. And I guess that practically what that looks like is I look after a team of 8 at the gym. So we've got 800 members, 8 staff, and I help look after the sports leagues. So there's 300 students playing sport every week, and there's a team of, I think, 5 or 6 staff members running those leagues.
Awesome. That sounds great. And now we actually have a question about your role from Instagram. So at Carl does ask, what were your expectations of the gym manager role when you first started compared to what they actually are?
It's an interesting question coming from Carl, because Carl has been at the gym longer than I have. So it's interesting that he's asked this question because he's seen pretty much every mistake I've made along the way. But in terms of expectations changes, I think the expectation is always the same. Like I feel the responsibility comes down to me. Probably the big difference is that in the first 3 or 4 years at the gym, I was trying to do everything. So for whatever reason I took that responsibility, and I thought I was the one that had to do all the artwork, all the marketing, all the sales, all the customer services, answer every email. And I think over the last 10 years, what I've learned to develop is to really trust in the team. Or I guess first bring a team of really confident people to the gym, and then trust in them that they're doing their pieces of work. So that's probably the big change.
Yeah, awesome. Definitely being able to delegate and not feel like everything's on your shoulders definitely makes everything a lot less stressful. So that's awesome.
Absolutely, because they're skinny little shoulders, aren't they? There's not really much work that these guys can carry.
Hey, I wasn't going to say anything. You brought it up. Now, you mentioned 10 years. So how long have you been at Massey University or Massey University Gym?
10.5 years at the moment. So I started November 19th, 2009.
Perfect. And what's your favourite thing about Massey University?
The gym.
What
Everything about the whole university is just the gym.
What in particular about the gym?
I think I'm in a really lucky position where the people I work with, I genuinely enjoy working with them, and a lot of the members that come through, and to be honest, probably in the last 3 years as I've stepped back from that front of house responsibility, I don't know as many members anymore, but genuinely I enjoy going to work every day.
Yeah, that's definitely very lucky when you've got a job that you love and you love going to work every day, because not everyone has that feeling towards their job. So yes, definitely think we're all lucky in that respect. So that's awesome. Cool. Now, not many people may know, but where in the world are you sitting right now? Where are you tuning in from?
I am in Parapara Beach from our family home. So this is where we live.
Awesome. So you make that big commute every day?
Yeah, so it's an hour 40 door to door for me. So I leave the house at 6:45 in the morning, roll up to campus just after 8:20. Yeah, so there's a little bit of cycling either side. So I catch the train in, bike the train, catch the train in, and bike at the other end. Yep, I am that guy on the train that wears fluoro and makes 4 people get out of their seats so my bike can be on the train. But while I'm there, it's a good chance of being undistracted and get a little bit of homework done, a little bit of prep work done.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And what's the best thing about living in the Kapiti Coast?
I don't know if I want to brag too much. Don't want too many new neighbours out here. I mean, we really like the community. We like the school here is great for my son. The beaches are great. Yeah, I think I won't brag anymore. We like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've definitely seen some of the pictures you've posted from your walks on the beach. Definitely looks like an ideal way to start the day. So yeah, that's awesome. Cool. All right, let's move on to more your sport and fitness history, and where you kind of started and where you are now. And this actually ties in really nicely to a question that we got on Instagram from @Henningson. He asks, how long have you been doing fitness and what have you done before?
So my fitness journey probably started at the age of 14. I remember there was a LP teacher, Dr. Philpott, not Dr. I think he's a Dr. Philpott now, he's got a PhD, but Mr. Philpott, a Canadian ice skater at our, I went to school in South Auckland at Roseville College. We were doing a wrestling class. So my height hasn't changed in the last however many years since then, but at age 14, I was tipping the scales at 80 kilos. So I was rolling with these bigger fellas doing these chicken wings, whatnot on the floor. And I think, that was a moment of like, things need to change a little bit here for my body composition. So yeah, that's really when my fitness journey started.
Cool. And where did you go from there?
Pretty much straight into an all-consuming passion for triathlon. So I trained and competed at a high level for me, I guess, from age 14 to age 34. There's 20 years there, and then towards the end of that period, I got a little bit into mountain biking as well, so off-road triathlon, exterior racing. There's been maybe 6 years of martial arts in there as well, and then probably for the last 12 years, there's been a pretty familiar relationship with yoga. So I guess you could look at it that I spent my early life making myself tight, and now the second half I'm trying to open up those hammies, those hips, and those shoulders a bit.
Yeah, awesome. So it definitely seems like you've done a bit of everything in your sporting fitness career. And I actually have another question here from Instagram from @Carl. He wants to know, what were your early fitness goals compared to your goals now?
Oh gosh, I mean, I think pretty much every young athlete has, world global domination, Olympic aspirations, so I think, those 18, 19, 20, I was doing a lot of training, development B squad for New Zealand Triathlon, which doesn't mean anything. You're just on a list, no fancy uniform, no sponsorship. But those early goals were really about racing, winning, very myopic, very narcissistic, unfortunately, to the goals at the moment where they've shifted a lot towards being, I guess, strong, healthy, and I want to live a long time just so I can be a good dad and hopefully maybe even a better grandfather.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool, David. Nice. And what did you want to be when you left high school? What was your ideal job?
So there was a guy who would write my triathlon and Ironman training programs. His name was John Ackland, and I would go and see him on the North Shore. We would sit down together for 2 hours and we would map out, say, a 16-week block of training, and just his personality, his optimism, the way he would take an analytical approach to breaking down a goal into micro steps and building up. So like every week the volume would go up 10%, and those last 6 weeks the volume would come down, the intensity would go up. I just love that to bits, and that made me want to go to university and learn that stuff too. So as I left school, there were two options in front of me, two that I remember. One was going to university to learn what John Ackland did at Performance Lab. And the second kind of plan B was to be an ambulance officer. So a lot of the people I was hanging out with at the time were in Auckland in the St John Ambulance Service, either a volunteer or a staff. So yeah, that was a very real trajectory for me.
Awesome. And what made you decide to not go for more that ambulance officer option and go for more that endurance exercise option?
I did pursue both paths through university. Wasn't the greatest academic person on campus. If it was to do with my training, what I was interested, physiology, I was all over it. Biomechanics at that stage of life, I was not all over. So I always had this plan B in the back of my head. And it just so happened that, I finished university. I did my pre-hospital emergency care course, which is the medical side for operating in an ambulance, and not the driver part, but the person in the back, the real entry-level one. So I just finished that qualification and had applied for a job at the National Heart Foundation, and I got that role. So that kind of carried on with that direction of health. Yeah.
Cool. Do you mind just telling us a little bit more information about that role at the heart organization? Sorry.
Yeah. So at that point, the National Heart Foundation had set up a role for a national physical activity advisor. It was the first time they'd had the role, so they were trying to figure out what they wanted from the person. And at that time, we had Sport New Zealand was called Spark in New Zealand. So Spark and Ministry of Health were looking after all the main physical activity exercise guidelines throughout New Zealand, and nutrition, and the Heart Foundation was doing a lot of heart health eating stuff. So it was this kind of bridge between those two organizations to try and make sure that the Heart Foundation was saying similar things to Spark, and to try and, start some initiatives with the Heart Foundation around physical activity.
Awesome. That sounds like a pretty rewarding role, and it's pretty obvious just that, physical activity and getting people active is something that you're really passionate about. So yeah, that's awesome. It was,
and I don't know if that role was rewarding. So the work that we do now at the gym, I find a lot more rewarding. So the work at the Heart Foundation, it was basically me. I don't want to say it was me. I was the only one there, but the only person focusing on physical activity. And I write a lot of documents, I'd answer a lot of questions, I'd run a lot of reports, and they just go on a shelf and they wouldn't do anything. So I'm a lot more happy now in that the decisions that we make as a team, the equipment that we want to purchase, the color we want to paint the gym, the programs that we want to run, what we create now, I can see on a day-to-day basis. So I'm a lot happier in the work I do now.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Well, that's the main thing, right? That's awesome. Great. All right. So let's talk about what is perhaps one of the biggest challenges that you've faced so far?
I think every parent will agree that being a parent is a pretty big ongoing challenge that I don't know if you ever entirely succeed on it. You just kind of keep figuring it out day by day. Once you've figured it out, all of a sudden, your child has a birthday, and then there's a whole bunch of new things you got to figure out. So that's a kind of an ongoing challenge for me. But if I think back in time, the two that kind of come to mind, when I was 21, I was getting ready for my first international triathlon competition in Australia. I was at that 10-day out period, and I was riding along Tamaki Drive on my racing bike in Auckland, and an oncoming car came towards me and turned across me and broke my both bones in my lower right leg and my right kneecap. So that's a pretty big challenge. At that stage, the doctors were saying probably not likely to walk properly again, let alone run and compete. And then after that, I went to represent New Zealand at the World Off-Road Champs and on-road champs for age groups. So I kind of showed them wrong. But that injury 19 years ago, 18 years ago, like it still hurts today. And you'll see that I won't do a lot of jumping stuff in the gym. And if I do too many back-to-back road running days on concrete, like I have been during this period, when my son's riding his bike, my leg will play up. So I don't know if I've actually overcome that one.
Yeah, I definitely massively overcome that one to go on and represent New Zealand. That's really, really cool. What about, were there any particular challenges with training with triathlons? Because I can imagine that requires a lot of hours going into that.
That's a good question. I remember I've made so many mistakes in my life. It's ridiculous. And one of the mistakes I made is I signed up to do my first Ironman when I was, I think, 20. So that year I was the youngest finisher that year for Ironman New Zealand, the first Ironman I did. But I was still studying at university. I was working a part-time job. Some of you probably would remember the TV show Married with Children. There was a guy, Al Bundy, on there, this guy that sold women's shoes in a shoe shop. So that wasn't what I was doing. On a Saturday and Sunday, I was selling women's shoes in Newmarket. Some men's shoes as well, but mainly women's shoes because I tend to buy more shoes. And I was trying to get in these 6-hour rides to get ready for a 180k bike ride for Ironman New Zealand. And I remember I would wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning and I would eat. And then I would start my ride. So I was living in Mount Eden, and I start my ride and I would ride along K Road 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, which would be then Sunday morning. So, because this is where the only street lights were, so I would ride along the road and then out to the Northwestern Motorway, which where the other street lights were, and I would do a lap back through the city before I headed out to South Auckland. And in those days, there were no flash LEDs. You had these massive lights on your bike that cost $20 for the batteries. So I was trying to jam way too much in, and I'd do that, finish that 6-hour ride, come home, eat, sleep, shower, get down, and sell shoes to women for the rest of the day. So yeah, that's a pretty big thing, I guess.
Yeah,
pretty big mistake, I'd say. Actually, not really a challenge, a mistake.
Yeah. So what would be the biggest thing you've learned from that challenge?
Probably not to advise anyone who's under 30 to do an Ironman. I guess, it comes back to setting realistic goals for ages and stages in life, and also realistic goals with how much resource you've got to put into something.
Yeah, awesome. And how about competitiveness? Because I know you are quite competitive. Is that something that kind of is a challenge quite often?
Yes. Yes, I like to compete. No, I don't like to lose. And I think probably across the last 5 years, what I'm seeing more and more of myself is that I have to be careful about the competitions I take on, especially in our gym team. So like if we have a competition about how many push-ups someone could do, how long you can hold a plank for, I'll do it. I'll probably hurt myself for about 7 days just trying to win. So it's almost a problem that I'm still managing, competitiveness.
Yeah, nice. And I still remember the push-up challenge that you and Miska were just going back and forth. Someone would get their 36, so the other person would get 37, the other person would get 38. So, yeah. But hey, competitiveness is not always a bad thing. There are good benefits as well. So, all good. All right. Well, I think that's all from me, David, regarding your background. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to hand over to Miska, and he's going to talk about more gym and fitness questions. Over to you, Miska.
Hello, David.
Although this
How
is
are
going to
ya?
be great because I've been wanting to tell you a few things about how to fix your training for a long time now. Let's go.
Fix my training.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll start with that then. David, tell me, how can I fix my training?
No, you're in charge of the questions today. But if we talk about, we'll stick to the
All right.
program.
All righty, we'll get into it. All righty, so first question we're going to start with. I want to figure out, David, what motivates you?
Fear. If I'm honest, it's fear of not being good enough. Fear of not being able to be a good dad or a good teammate or a good team leader. So yeah, it's interesting. Fear.
So that's kind of life motivation.
Yeah, life motivation, and probably the big one there is I want to be a great dad. I'm worried that I'm not going to be. So whenever I'm feeling lazy or if I want to work hard, I bring that to mind. I want to be a good dad. I don't want to let my son down, basically.
Okay, and you briefly touched on some goals. So do you currently have any sport, fitness, health goals that you're holding up?
Well, it's difficult at the moment. So we're in the middle. This podcast has been recorded in that kind of COVID lockdown period. So pretty much everyone's goals are a little bit on pause. If they weren't going ahead, there was a secret squirrel whisper going around the gym about a underground Massey University powerlifting competition, which was something I was going to secretly train for.
It's not so secret now, David.
Not so secret now. Now that I've seen your guys' numbers, I don't know if I want to play anymore. We might do something else instead.
Well, actually, funny you say that. We'll go into those numbers now, David. What are those numbers? Squat, bench, deadlift.
What are those numbers? I had to dig out the spreadsheet to have a look back to July 2019. Where back squat, I'm looking at them, 95 kilos, a bench press, 72.5 kilos, a deadlift, 110 kilos. And I actually remember the day that I did the bench press, 72.5 kilograms. We had a member of our gym watching me do it. So I was trying to do it on the sly, just to get ready for it. And he thought I was going to have a meltdown. So he ran over and helped me out of that bench press. So I remember that day quite vividly.
Oh no, can you remember who that was?
Yeah, his name was Moran, and he was an Iranian fellow that didn't speak any English at all. And he picked the bar up in a way that wasn't balanced. So he picked it up from me. So the whole thing tipped over and we could have hurt both of us. But I had it. It was 100% mine. I had it. I didn't need to interfere.
I think we need video proof for that one, David. Sorry. Sounds a little bit dodgy.
I would agree on the dodgy, yes.
Awesome. So I think Brooke said something about 40 kilo deadlifts. What's up with that?
Hey, I don't like to brag, but yes, I can lift the bar and 10 kilo plates off the floor. Sam, the team man, who we hope to have on the podcast soon, he's witnessed it firsthand, so he can validate that for me.
But hey, so you said you could do at least 110.
Yes. So last time I did it, it was 110 kilos. I got off the IC6 bike at the back of the room, so I just ground out. It was last winter. We did those winter fitness challenges, and I think it was, I can't remember what the first one was, but it was that bike and deadlift. So I just cracked out the bike, and then that bar came flying up off the ground. So I might have to keep that my secret strategy next time. So before I do a deadlift, just do a max 5-minute effort on a bike and get that blood pumping into the legs.
It's a secret, is it? Do cardio before weights.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not sure about that one, Dave. You have to find some scientific resources to back that up.
And I think that probably would reflect in my lifts versus your lifts, Misker. I think you're onto something there. No cardio before strength.
Maybe, David, maybe. But speaking of cardio, what kind of cardio achievements have you done or records?
Well, I don't think any records exist unless you can prove it on Strava. So life before Strava. So Strava, for people who don't know, if you swim, cycle, bike, mountain bike, platform where people can log their runs via GPS, and then there's virtual kind of races around there. So life before Strava doesn't count. So life after Strava, I've got a 19:58 5-kilometer time, 5-kilometer running time for New Zealand. So that, yeah, took me a while to get under the 20-minute mark, but I got there. I was actually chasing a guy at our park run in Kapiti. He was pushing a pushchair with a child in it, and we were coming down to the finish line, and I was having to haul ass just to get him to beat him to the finish line. So that's how I got my sub 20, racing a guy pushing a pushchair.
Very nice. I mean, those numbers really don't speak anything to me because I don't really understand cardio.
I guess for comparison, I'm nowhere near as fast as Lockie. That might help.
So what would Lockie's 5K time be?
Ooh, if he can hold the same time for his 2.4, he'd probably be doing a 17:30 to an 18-minute.
What's the likelihood of that, though?
I think it could be pretty high. We learned in that last episode, that USA football scholarship. He's got a lot of strong hip extension with his deadlift, and he rides a mountain bike, so he's got the cardio engine there. It'd be interesting to have a throwdown this year if we have the Powerade Challenge, hopefully in August, September. We'll see what things look like then.
There you go, Lockie. If you're watching this, you're doing a one-on-one with David in the Powerade run. 5Ks, max. Easy. It's sorted. It's a date.
It's a date.
Right, David. So, I mean, how does your body feel these days when you're doing, those heavy lifts and all that intense running? Do you feel like you recovered pretty well from that, or? Well,
let's be honest, Miska, my lifts are not heavy at all. so my lifting doesn't hurt so much. I think I probably hurt myself more in the first ever Massey University home online gym program when I did that leg workout with the split squats and the squats. I hurt myself doing that more than I have with the barbell in a long time. But if I was to go out and do a pretty hard running race effort, I would probably feel it for 5 to 6 days afterwards.
Is that, did it used to be less than that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when I was probably 24, we had the 24, 25, we had the New Zealand Olympic distance champs in Wellington. And for some funny reason, they cut the course short. The 10-kilometer run course was cut down to 7 kilometers. So I was really bummed out because I was in probably some of the best peak of my life. And the very next day, there was another triathlon in Wellington, the same distance on a different course. So I was able to go max effort on a Saturday, eat, sleep, recover, max effort on a Sunday, and then back to training on Monday. So yeah, things have changed a lot in the last 15 years, actually.
Jeepers, that sounds really intense there, David. What is those triathletes actually compose of? I'm not familiar.
What is a triathlete composed of? Oh, just basically skinny muscles, lots of blood and lots of lungs. But if you're asking what a triathlon is composed of, there's a swim and a bike and a run.
How long?
So this is where you get to pick your poison, pick your distance. Some races will last an hour, and then if you're cruising up to Ironman distance, I guess the first elite finisher will finish at 8 hours. The last finisher, I think, is 17 hours. So I was always kind of in that 13 to 14 hour bracket when I did my 2 attempts.
Oh, ridiculous. Couldn't imagine anything worse.
It is ridiculous, Miska, and I wish you had been there when I was 20 to say, you know what, David, this is just ridiculous, mate.
Just get into the gym, do some deadlifts for 2 hours, you'll be sweet.
The only thing is, Miska, you would have been age 6 trying to convince me that doing that race was ridiculous, and I'm not too sure if that mustache would have convinced me at that stage.
I reckon it would have. So did you do any weightlifting stuff then during any of your triathlete years, or?
No, and this is probably one of the biggest regrets I ever had around finding the gym at the end of my triathlon career. And I mean, I think I've told some of you guys the story. So when I started university on crutches, so I was 19. My calf muscles had got so big that when I ran, I would lose all blood flow. I would lose all blood flow to my feet. So if you imagine the structure of a muscle like a sausage, right? So it's got the meat in the middle and the casing around the outside. So what happens is that when you exercise, that meat in the middle gets bigger and the casing should expand at the same speed. But when the casing doesn't expand, the meat squashes the blood vessels through the middle. So it can't go out, so it goes in, which means the blood flow going through the lower extremities is cut off. So at age 19, I had a surgery which is usually only reserved for bodybuilders. And it's a compartment release surgery where they slice down the outside of that sausage skin and just let the muscles pop out a bit bigger to relieve some of the pressure inside the muscle, right? So my big regret here is that I was getting big calf muscles because I wasn't using my bum properly when I ran, right? So I wasn't using my glutes for hip extension. When you take your foot out behind you, my hamstrings were doing that, which is why my hamstrings were tight, and my calves were doing the work of my hamstrings. So I had this lazy butt and massive cut open, calf muscles. So my biggest regret is if someone with a mustache at age 6 had come up to me and said, "Hey bro, come into the gym with me today. I'll show you how to deadlift and I'll show you how it's going to improve your running," I would have listened. Who knows what would have happened after that?
Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. Not even this mustache can tell the future. But
That's right. Hindsight's a lovely thing, eh? So for everyone out there who's not doing any speed training, not doing any drills, not doing any lifting for their running, I strongly recommend you get into the gym, preferably Massey University Gym, Wellington. Do some deadlifts, get those glutes switched on. And not that clamshell stuff either that the physio says. That's ridiculous. That's not the glute activation you want. You want a Life Fitness Insignia glute extension machine. I think that you should definitely get one of those at the gym next. So it's that action of tape. I'll show you actually. That action there. So boom.
Put it away, David.
So that's where you need the strength, not the clamshell business.
All right. So talking about clamshells, how many times a week do you clamshell?
0.
Let's put it in other words. What does a week of working out look like for you?
I guess to understand my workouts, you've got to understand how active life is. So if I'm coming in by train, there's 50 minutes of cycling happening for me by default every day. And then working in the gym, if I'm coaching 2 gym classes a week, and then I'm also taking 2 yoga sessions a week. So my life is pretty active. So I'm limited on time, and what the workouts look like. I kind of got 4 20-minute chunks during the week to work out at the gym. So 2 or 3 of those will be a strength session, and then maybe 1 or 2 will be a cardio, and then on top of that I'll do 1 swim, and maybe something a little bit fun on the weekends, a mountain bike ride or a longer run.
Interesting, Dave. And I've seen your plans for the week as well, because we've worked on it together. I think you've worked on it with Lockie as well. And it's pretty, have you got it nearby, do you? He's looking for it.
I remember, because I was like, "Hey, Miska, hey, what do you think of my plan?" And you'd be like, "Where's the rest of it?"
Where's the bicep curls?
Where's the bicep curls? Yeah, there's not much to my strength sessions, no.
Are you able to pop that on the screen there and show us what you've got?
No, that was a prop there. But
okay.
That was one of the home gym workouts I put together. So, basically my strength sessions are basically 2 movements, because that's about all I can get in 20 minutes. 2 movements, 2 sets of 5 each.
Nice. Is there anything you find that helps you stick to that routine?
Time pressure, routine. Yeah. So, I don't have a lot of time to be lazy. There's no wriggle room in my week at all. So basically, if it doesn't happen then it doesn't happen. And I think there's days in the gym where you might say hello to someone a little bit longer. And so that 20-minute session turns into an 18, turns into a 17-minute session. So it's just about, using that time to get it done.
Nice. Awesome. So let's talk about some recovery stuff now, David. Do you have a go-to recovery ritual?
I would say that my recovery plan is more comprehensive than my strength training plan. on a daily basis, Yeah, on a daily basis, I've got a 10-minute mobility session. So it's one of the first things I do it in the morning. So it's working on my spine, my hips, my shoulders, and then a 6 or 7 minute roller session just to get some myofascial release out. It's the start of my day. The end of my day is a 22-minute kind of fixed set yoga routine that I do. So I can almost go on autopilot with my mind, and I just go through my sequences. So I've hopefully lengthened those muscles I've shortened during the day. Weekly, I've got one swim followed by a sauna, like a non-load bearing cardio recovery session followed by some heat. And then every 4 or 5 weeks, I guess life just gets in the way, right? Things happen, big work projects come up, someone gets sick, something happens, I get sick. So there's kind of a, by default, a natural deloading process as Mother Nature throws it at me.
Absolutely. Do you have anything in particular that you take in regards to supplements to help with that recovery process?
Look, this podcast isn't long enough to go through the list of supplements that I take. Most people like to buy whatever hair product or go out movies or whatever, but supplement seems to be a big investment of mine. If I was thinking of the top ones that I would have, to have a think. So magnesium for me, I guess doing a lot of exercise, a lot of stress, so magnesium is probably my number one. Number two is vitamin D. So I get affected by seasonal affective disorder. So I guess anxiety, depression through the winter months when there's no sun out. So vitamin D is my number two. Let's have a think. Number three would be Himalayan salt. Again, a lot of exercise. So just trying to keep those electrolytes balanced. And then for me specifically, I'm not trying to pretend like I'm a medical doctor or a health practitioner, but for me specifically, I have allergies. So I use a product, a Solgar quercetin, Quercetin, that really helps with that. Unfortunately, it doesn't help with my gluten allergy. And then probably my number five, my secret is Mina tea. So one of our favorite members at the gym, Mina, she goes off to India once or twice a year, and I ask her to put into the stitching of her bag as much Mina tea. It's called Devapaya. I don't know how you pronounce it, but that's how I pronounce it. And she brings that back into the country for me, and I just find that really helps a lot with my lungs.
Very nice. What's wrong? What's wrong with your lungs there?
I think all of us have a kryptonite point and a weak point, and for me, it's my lungs. I had asthma as a kid. I had pneumonia about 3 or 4 years ago, where I was trying not to pull the whole man flu card. Just kept on crushing the workouts, and then next minute going to the doctor, and they're like, "Oh, you should stop doing everything you're doing right now. Take this injection and recover from pneumonia." So ever since then, my lungs have been pretty sensitive.
Jeepers. Alrighty. So after your workouts there, I've seen you down some sausages and potatoes. Is that your usual post-workout meal?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and we'll put workouts and air quotes there. When they're not workouts like anyone else in our gym probably does, but before the workout, if I don't want to hurt afterwards, I'm taking some branched chain amino acid caps. Often I'll start my workout either without eating or without eating any carbs. Obviously, being time limited, I'm trying to get a cardiovascular adaptation response. So if I take carbs out of the mix, that helps, but it can make me hurt a bit. So the branched chain amino acids, or the BCAAs, go down the pie hole before the weights go up. The 40-kilo deadlift happens. And then after the workout, there is a plant-based protein. So my digestion doesn't do too well with the whey protein. I'm okay with butter, okay with cream, extra okay with cream. For whatever reasons, it has to be a plant-based protein. And then yes, there's 2 sausages and Kumara post-workout. And I picked that because it's fairly easy to keep the portion sizes known. And I'm trying to get a bit of a balance between protein, fat, carbohydrate, just to level out those blood sugars. So I'm not running across the dairy, smashing those Whittakers almond gold bars for the rest of the day.
I know those Whittakers almond gold bars are your kryptonite as well, aren't they?
like I said, mistakes. I'm very familiar with mistakes in life, and the relationship. Starting that first bike with a Whittakers almond gold was one of my big mistakes.
Absolutely. Hey, we have one question from Carl as well in regards to recovery. He's wondering, what is your go-to kind of, relaxation? What do you do to relax and unwind?
Oh, it kind of stumped me when I saw that question come through just before we started today, because I don't, I probably don't do it enough. There's a few times a week where I'm in non-contact with people and non-contact with like an audio podcast or something happening, and that's when I'm swimming, when I'm in the sauna, or when I'm probably doing like a long run or a ride in the weekend. So, like, I guess to me, relaxing is having that just time for that mind to roam free. Being a dad, it's really hard to have huge chunks of time where you can get through a novel back to back, or even a whole movie in one night. So usually a movie takes 2 nights to get through. Not a great answer. So probably note to self, figure something out.
Yeah, cool. And last question from me before we go into Rihanna, I believe. Who is your mentors or people that you look to for advice or anything like that?
Advice is a tricky one because I'm pretty stubborn and I have to figure it out for myself. If I think about athletes I quite admire, I like Lance Armstrong. He's made a lot of mistakes in his life too, so I haven't taken performance enhancing drugs. We'll just make that clear. But he's in his 50s now. I follow him on Strava. I see the times that he's crushing. It's like, oh my gosh. So there's a man that worked hard all his life, and he's getting into his 50s, working hard, and he did make a big difference for people in the cancer, going through cancer when he was competing. Another one is Cameron Brown. He's a New Zealand Ironman athlete. He's been racing world class from probably age 19, so he's in his late 40s now. He might be hitting 50 this year or next year, and again, he's able to keep up with the young fellas. So there's another guy that can kind of master that art of performance kind of into the 50s. But I guess if I'm looking for strength or size or those types of goals, like I'm always looking to the people closest to me that I trust the most. And so that at the moment is probably Miska and Lockie, and in the past we've had other trainers in the gym, so Sean and Kane, just taking advice from them. But yeah, I find it difficult to balance out big cardio volume with effective strength training.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thanks for those questions and answers, David, in regards to your gym stuff. Rihanna, we're going to go over to you now for some more member questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Miska. All right, David, we've got some questions from our gym members that we've taken from Instagram and Facebook. So kicking it off first is going to be Kane Carter _ asks, you can only do one of the following forms of exercise for the rest of your life: run, lift, or yoga. Which do you choose and why?
Lift.
Lift. Oh, why is that?
It's got to be lift. So if I think about it, I've run for 25 years. I feel like I've done everything possible I could have done with my time there. If I think ahead, what would it take to get further? And if you take kind of Arthur Lydia's approach of 160 kilometer weeks to kind of hit that physical peak potential, you're looking at or an average of 2 hours of running a day, which is time I don't have. So to hit the limits there or to make any progress there is not going to happen. Yes, yoga has been a big part of my life, and I'm very lucky because I don't have to choose between these three. They're all part of my life. So yoga being, I guess, that mindful movement of body and space. I think you can do that with a barbell or a kettlebell or a dumbbell or whatever you want. So yeah, if I was to pick three, it would be lifting. And I guess like you can see, you see it now, you see it in the gym. There's a huge area for improvement for me there.
Well, I find it interesting that, you didn't say that you want to go for, longevity necessarily, but that competitiveness a little bit is still in you, where you said you've already gone to the peak of one where you can keep pushing it in the other. So it was interesting to sort of see that competitive answer still in there.
Well, yeah, yes and no. Like, I mean, if you think about lifting for older people, bone health is important. Lean muscle mass is a really good predictor of longevity and healthy aging. So, you know, if I could be a shredded granddad, that'd be pretty awesome. Swole granddad, yoked up granddad.
Nice. Misker's nodding his head going, oh yeah. Second question is from Goddess Cass. She asks, what's one thing you admire about each of your staff members at Massey University Gym?
So I did see this one on the comments, and I don't think we've got enough time to get through one at the gym. So I'll give a global one. I think, you know, where I can, I do tell people individually the great stuff they do and how I appreciate them. So there's no surprises for the team there. But I guess what I really enjoy about, you know, this current family that we've got at the gym is that they are open to my harebrained ideas, like interviews, like online home training, how to gym programs, group training. They're open to that. They lean in, you know, when things get hard, everyone leans in, everyone picks up, everyone, you know, when we changed the gym around, everyone was there cutting the floor, moving the equipment. So they're willing to roll their arms up and roll their sleeves up and get dirty. And then probably the big thing is that they're willing to push back on me. Like, so if I say I want to do this, and like, no, Moby, that's not a good idea, mate. And here's some good reasons why. So that, if I think about it, that's what I appreciate most about my guys, or our guys, or being not even my guys, like the team that we work with, the family that we're in.
Awesome. Next question is from _ Brooke P. She is wondering, what are the benefits of air curls?
I'm really surprised to be asked this because I haven't got any hair, right? But so I assume a hair curl is just to lift that hair up off your neck away from your collar. I mean, I don't know for sure.
Nice. This is, the next question we'll go to is at Carl is asking, what things have occurred that have changed your outlook on life?
Being a dad would probably be the big one. Yeah. So I remember the day my son was born at Wellington Hospital. I carried him downstairs, I think that first day, and just hung out with him while Kelly kind of recovered. And yeah, just looking down at him going, how can there be war in the planet? How can people want to fight and kill each other? And then, you know, having him in my life helps put everything in perspective. It's almost like a little mirror, right? So any mistake I make, I can see it coming up back from him pretty quick. Yeah, so that's probably the big thing for me.
That's awesome. I think the last question we have from our Instagram is from Gorilla Martini. What Massey Gym moments made you think to yourself, why me?
That's a really interesting question. There's two that come to mind. We'll get to a point in our team where we have a really solid team around us. You know, guys that got great experience, great insight, and work really hard. And all of a sudden, one or two of them will want to leave. And I'm like, what? Why me? Why are you leaving us now? We've just got this thing all sorted out. I mean, the good news is that the standard that they've set in the past has meant that new people coming in, you know, are willing to meet that standard and have got fresh ideas and fresh enthusiasm to put into the team. And probably the other why me, and this is the one that came to my mind first, is that I don't like to ask any of our team to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. So we have a member that occasionally puts paper towels into the men's or into the disabled changing room toilet after going number twos. So that toilet be blocked up pretty hard. So if someone's going to clean it out, someone's got to go into that first aid kit and pop those gloves on and cruise out through the garden, find some sticks and a plastic bag and unblock that bad boy there and chuck it in the bin. So I guess that's another kind of why me moment, but I wouldn't expect any of you guys to do it if I'm not willing to do it myself.
Nice. All right, we've got one more question, David. Where do you hope to be in the next kind of 12 months?
I'd like to be in the gym. I'd like to be back with you guys. I mean, I think like right now, the period of life that I'm in, I'm really happy. Things are good at home. Things are going well with my son. Things are going great at work. So So yeah, 12 months is probably just, a little bit of the same. That being said, I think there's some areas that the gym can improve on. Number one being that Life Fitness Insignia Glute extension machine. We should definitely invest in one of those. And then, we've got these programs, our group training and our online group training, which we can up level in that as well, and our how to gym. So we've got through level 100 and 200. I think we can get to level 300 with our services too, make bigger differences to more people.
Cool. Is there anything else you'd like to sort of share with us or say, or a little last bit of advice?
The last piece of advice, and this is a question I was thinking on, is like, if I could go back in time and give myself some advice, I guess what it comes down to is if you really want to do something, you need to find someone that has either done it before themselves or has helped other people do it, help other people achieve that goal, and really be open to taking guidance from them. And this kind of goes back to where I was at as a 15 and 16-year-old athlete. I was just trying to figure everything out myself. I'm trying to replicate the training volumes and loads that a lot of world-class athletes were doing, which was inappropriate. So that piece of advice, how it would apply to me is as a 15-year-old, go and find Dr. John Helmans. So he is a Dutch, I think he's Dutch GP working out of Christchurch, and he worked really well with getting not young but aspiring athletes into the best possible shape at the right time, so rather than going too far ahead. So I guess how that extrapolates out, like if you've got a goal, if you're serious about a goal, go and find someone that's done it or has helped some other people do it, and take their advice. Be really open to taking their advice. And that goal might be something small that we can help with at the gym, or even bigger than that. But yeah, go find that advice.
Awesome, that's great advice. So if anybody has any questions about triathlons, David's the man to go to. So thank you, David.
Not anymore. I can coach you through a 40-kilo deadlift, easy as, but triathlon's moved on along since I've finished.
Awesome. So thank you, David. Thank you, Brooke, and thank you, Misker, for the podcast today. And if any of the listeners have anybody who they want us to interview, drop us a name, maybe an email or number for us to get in contact with. If there's any bits of advice you're curious about or want to learn about, we're definitely open to interviewing anybody you guys think is interesting. So thank you all for listening. We have Yarden for the next episode. See you guys next time.